Hi everyone, welcome to Values. So today we're looking at the Rocket Lab, and this stock is doing so well. Like, no one can really fault this company and what it does. There's so much potential behind it, and it continues to execute on revenue growth. But the question is, at $90, is this too high? And in some sense I think yes, but it doesn't, it's not a guarantee that it comes down, that much as well, because at the same time there's a lot of expectations kind of built into the stock that if it gets sold down, people just buy it up anyway. So it's kind of like if something was at a good bargain, everyone would buy it and it would just naturally go high anyway. So there's this kind of premium that's always going to be built into the stock because people have recognized how good this stock is. Like my recent video was on Firefly Aerospace, and if you look at the past history of their launches, they have not been that successful. 2 out of their 6 launches succeeded, whereas if you look at Rocket Lab, last year they had 21 launches be successful. So you can see, like, there's a massive quality difference. They're by far the leader when it comes to these small rockets and launching small satellites, and you've got SpaceX, who's by far the dominant one when it comes to medium to large kind of rockets and satellites. So we look at that, and yeah, like it's a massive comparison around that. These guys are very similar to SpaceX, and when SpaceX comes onto the market later on this year, that also gives it a big boost as well. So people know the sector is hot, they know this stock is performing well as well, and they've got a lot of expectations for Neutron, which is the game changer for this company. So the biggest question is, what do you do in this situation where you have a stock that's so highly valued at $90? Well, I think it just depends on your time frame. Like, short term wise, I think there's a lot of risk, because anything could just basically tip the balance of this stock, like market downturn, issues with the company and your products, especially like Neutron, if it's delayed again, or when they come to the launch pad and something goes majorly wrong, they have to do an investigation, and that even delays it for many months as well. So then you've got something that is priced in a sense to perfection. Like last time I did a video on Rocket Lab, it was about $70. At the time I thought it was a really good buy, in a sense that if you were there for the medium long term, it would eventually get to $100 easy. And we're up to $90, and we're just barely halfway through January. So the stock has definitely just performed beyond what I would expect anyway. But of course it's always going to happen, especially with a lot of anticipation into the rocket launch, and it happens with every stock when it comes to big news on its way. And yeah, like Neutron could be testing very soon, like once all the parts get assembled, then they put things together, and they could potentially be flying in the next maybe 1 or 2 months. Or potentially it gets delayed to the middle of the year. Just depends on if they have any problems or not. But yeah, at this kind of value, I think, like short term wise, it's very risky. Long term wise, if anything goes wrong, I think the stock comes back. But of course you want to make sure that if the stock was to fall, you can actually take advantage of the low pricing when it eventually does come along. And if you go by the history of the stock, like there's always peaks and troughs. Like, July, you kind of saw this kind of come to over $50, and then come back down to just over 40. And then in October you get around $70, and then did a massive drop just below $40. And if you took advantage of that opportunity, you would have done well, because you would have seen it go to over $90 if you held. And you can also see like all these little peaks, and then comes back down, peak, and then come back down. So if we look at the kind of pattern in a sense. Like you can kind of see like potentially there's another dip coming along, and then you buy, it gives you another chance to buy. But of course the stock kind of does higher highs and higher lows, so every time it dips, it's not going to be the same, it's not going to be as low as it was in the past. So the opportunities continue to, you know, they do show themselves, but it's at a different value proposition, because this company is one of those really beautiful companies that just continues to add value quarter after quarter, and it just gets more expensive quarter after quarter. So you can kind of see like there is chances that will come along, and yeah, like I think at the same time, you know, like yeah, like if you're here for long term and you don't want to touch it, you don't want to do anything, it's fine. Like 48 billion is it's trading at a premium for sure, but at the same time, if they can get everything to succeed, then the stock will continue to go higher throughout the year. If it doesn't, then you may see a fairly sizable pullback. So I think you just have to kind of engage your risks and go, where do you see this company going? And you know, like how much belief you have in it. So recent quarter that they've just finished was this fourth quarter, and expectations for that is 170 to 180 million. Financial results should be out probably next month. And this kind of gives the last trailing 12 months, so about 600 million revenue. So at 48.5 billion valuation, it kind of trades just over 80 times sales, which is at a fairly high value. So you just, yeah, want to be in a sense cautious. But like you, at any time throughout last year, it kind of seemed overvalued to some sense, but it's always continued to execute and justify itself. And I think this year is no different, really. Good companies continue to execute, and I don't think you find many of these companies. That's what kind of makes it a very tough decision sometimes, that if you sell a good company and the price continues to go higher, and you try to get back in, and you can only get back in at a higher price, that becomes a very it's a big mind block, because you're like, I don't want to pay a higher price than it's to some extent the admittance of that you made a wrong decision. And there's always that point where you eventually do buy back at the higher price, and it falls massively, and you just question it again. So that's where, like, if you're buying at a high price, you always have the ability to average down. So like, say like $90, if you had $1,000, you don't buy all $1,000 at $90. You know, you'd kind of split it up. You'd be like, I'd buy maybe $500 at $90, and I've got the other $500 at another stock, or just parked away and waiting for the stock to pull back to maybe like 80s, 70s, even 60. And those pullbacks do come along, but it's just a matter of when it might happen. Potentially just Trump say something tomorrow and things change. You never know with these markets. So let me know what your thoughts are on this company. Do you think it's overvalued? It's definitely, in my mind, I kind of definitely see it being overvalued to an extent. But at the same time, it's kind of one of these premium companies that do so well that it's going to trade at some sort of premium, because it's never going to trade so cheaply unless a massive, massive problem kind of happens to it. I think it's definitely a stock to continue to watch, for the rest of the year. Neutron will be exciting as well. That's what makes investing so interesting as well. You're investing in these exciting companies, and when they've got these milestones coming along, you kind of just have so much anticipation for these milestones that it's just a lot of excitement that only a stock investor will ever know how it feels if you follow a company for a longer term. It's like I don't think people that looking from the outside know how it feels to be investing in stocks, because they don't see, oh, you're following a story, you're following how it develops, and you're kind of, in a sense, betting on an outcome that you think will happen. And yeah, it's, it's to the extent that, of course, there's always risk, and you gotta be able to protect yourself from that risk. So when you look at, say, like a $90 price tag, you really look at your own situation, your own time frame, and how long you can hold for, and always making sure you put in solutions that if the share price was to drop, what would you do? And yeah, like, I think if you've always planned those things ahead, then you should be fine. I think that's my input for the stock regarding this. And yeah, hopefully next time round when I talk about the Rocket Lab, it is going to be about Neutron launching. That's going to be a very exciting milestone. Until then, good luck investing, everyone.